Greetings, my saplings. In today's video, we will be talking about the Nike Air Max 197 Sean Wotherspoon. To be more specific, like always in these How to Cop guides, I'll be telling you about some release info for the shoes that basically encompasses the date and the price, also how to cop them, so all the raffles, how to get multiple entries into them, all the Europe stores that you might want to stay up late to go for. In addition to that, of course, we will also go over resale predictions for those of you who might be interested, but of course, like most of these shoes coming out, this is going to be a personal cop for me. I really do like this shoe. Alright, so to kick it off with some release info, there will be a Europe release date and a US release date. They are completely separate. So for the Europe release date, they will be releasing on March 24th. And for the US, it will be March 26th. Now, what we're going to do in this video, we're actually going to focus more on the Europe drops. But of course, we'll talk about the US drops. And don't worry, if you're in the US, or in fact, if you're anywhere in the world, most of the Europe stores, I think all of them actually, ship to the US. In addition to the US, the vast majority of them are shipping worldwide. And of course, the retail price for these shoes will be $160 US, but if you're ordering from a Europe site, occasionally some of those might charge you up to $200, but regardless, that is still going to be less than resale value, so I'm still advocating that you do go for them regardless of how much the shipping is. Okay, so with the release info out of the way, why don't we jump right into how to cop these shoes. So first of all, obviously there will be a draw on Nike sneakers, so we've talked about this a ton of times. We're only making one entry per address, so that means if there's someone else in your house, make sure that they don't go for them simply because Nike representative said that they are tracking addresses along with payment. So that means if you have two entries coming from the same address, there is a very high likelihood that that will be canceled. In addition to Nike sneakers, I believe that Shop Nice Kicks will also be getting these at 10 a.m. Eastern time, I believe it is, for both of these drops. Now, moving on to the EU retailers, because that's where we have most of the shoes coming out of. So all the retailers that I'm going to be listing, these are coming out at 4 a.m. Eastern time, so maybe you want to stay up late, maybe you actually might want to set an alarm to briefly wake up at this time. So basically all these retailers include 43th Hub, Asphalt Gold, The Goodwill Out, and also Soulbox. Now, the one I wanted to stress the most was Soulbox, because with Soulbox, we went over how the queue is actually random, and we found this out through trial and error. So that means that we can use the multiple people jig for this, and if you have no idea what the multiple people jig is, go ahead and watch this video right here. It's super informative. It teaches you step by step how to do the multiple people jig on adidas.com. However, all you have to do is basically transfer all your knowledge from there onto Soulbox. So yeah, it'll work perfectly on here. And in addition to having Soulbox open, obviously it's a queue. You don't get in immediately. So when you have all of your Chrome users open for Soulbox, what you're actually going to want to do is try first to go for 43th Hub, Asphalt Gold, The Goodwill Out, because those will be first come, first served. And what you're going to want to do for these while your queue is loading, because it does take a little while to load. So while you're waiting to get into the queue, what you're going to want to do here is, first of all, just don't give up. When you're trying to add to cart, you just have to be persistent with it. Also, it's super imperative that you obviously get in as fast as possible. To do this, instead of refreshing with the little thing on the top left, we've talked about this before, you want to click Command R to refresh on Mac or F5 on Windows. Therefore, you can keep your mouse hovering over the size selection, because you dragging your mouse all the way down could be the difference between copying the shoe and not. Also, it is imperative that you have autofill already set up, because you can get cart jacked on any single site there is. So all those sites that I just mentioned, they do ship to the US, and I believe that some of them, if not all of them, do ship worldwide. I do believe, though, that shipping will be a little more pricey for those of you who aren't in Europe or the US, though. And I also wanted to mention that, of course, Nike Sneakers EU will be getting these. Unfortunately, though, Nike Sneakers EU only ships inside of Europe. They are not going to be shipping to the US. But if you happen to have a relative that is in Europe, maybe you want to ship it to them and have them ship it to you. So now, I've mentioned this before, what I personally like to do if I have the opportunity to do so, I like to camp out. So I believe that the places you could camp out is going to be Bait. I might be mistaken, but Bait, you could camp out there. It's going to be a first come, first serve. Also, I believe in Europe, you could camp out at a Few store, Overkill, or a Like store. And I would advocate that you get there at least like 5 to 6 hours before the drop. Now, moving on from all those first come, first serve releases, let's talk about some raffles. And yes, all of these raffles will be shipping to the US. They will ship inside of Europe, obviously. And more importantly, most of these raffles, not all of them, they do ship worldwide. So regardless of where you live in the world, you will be able to sign up for these. First one, I just wanted to get out of the way. On the Foot Patrol app, you could sign up on there. However, it is important to keep in mind that is only in-store pickups. Now, for the rest of the online raffles that I'm going to be mentioning, basically to get multiple entries, here's what you're going to want to do for all of them. So occasionally they'll ask you for a phone number. When it comes to the phone number on these raffles, you just want to put a random phone number because there's no verification process where they send it to your phone number. Usually it's only through email, so you could put in a completely random phone number. What I would advocate though, make sure that the area code is at least close to where you live or is in your country. What I like to do, I just change up the last few digits of my number, and that usually works out fine. Then what you also want to do, you want to have a brand new email for all of them. Personally, I've just started to create brand new emails. I used to do the +1 +2 thing, where essentially you would put in your email at a +1 or maybe a +7 or a +9, then you're at gmail.com, and it would still go to that email. All those emails would go to that main email address. However, I haven't had any luck with these types of raffles, but I have had luck when I try brand new email addresses. So although it does work for signing up, maybe there's a chance that they just cancel your entries. So I would advocate just creating a brand new email address. It only takes a few seconds. And now when it comes to your address, because a lot of times they do ask you for the address, all you're going to want to do is change up the characters in the last word. So this does not mean that you can change up like the capital letters and the lowercase letters. You actually have to change up the characters. So say the last word is street. You would want to try ST, then ST period. Then you want to spell street like STREAT or STRETE, because the computer, the algorithm won't pick it up that it's the same address. However, they will recognize the mistake when they're shipping to you, and they'll ship to your correct address. And what I've recently started doing, and this is just a safety precaution, I don't think you actually have to do this because obviously there's a lot of John Smiths that exist in the world. I don't think that they would cancel someone's entry for having the same name as someone else. If you have a really unique last name, maybe you would want to change the first name, but you know, that's up to you, whatever you want to do. I just like to do it for safety because obviously you don't need to have your first name correct. I just think that the last name is important. And then whenever they do ask for payment, unfortunately, this is pretty tough. You are going to have to use a new payment method every time. So what you can do, you can create multiple different PayPal accounts and connect a credit card to that. I do believe when you do it this way, if you happen to get charged this way, it will charge you an extra 5%. Again, it's still less than what resale would be. Or simply if you just happen to have like your wife's credit card with you, or maybe your friend's credit card that they'd let you use, I don't know. Basically, if you could just borrow anyone's credit card, that would also be a way to do it if you happen to have multiple credit cards, or simply if you happen to have a business PayPal and a regular PayPal. Just use all of them. So now let's talk about all the raffles that you should be signing up for, and of course I'll mention everything that's going to be different for each one of these raffles. First one we're going to be talking about is Neuer fonts. I might be pronouncing that incorrectly, but basically with this one, the only thing that you're going to need to do differently aside from most raffles, you will need to follow them on Instagram, and you will have to obviously have a different Instagram. I wouldn't suggest creating new Instagram accounts. What I would personally suggest is having a friend follow them for you, and maybe they could just unfollow them after. Now for SNS, this is one of the only ones, sneakers and stuff, where you don't want to create multiple entries. I don't know what it is that SNS does, but no matter what, they always seem to find a way to either cancel my other entry or simply just not let me enter a second time. They're on top of their game, guys, so just do one entry only for SNS. Now, for 18 Montrose, it's going to be the same deal that I mentioned with the Instagram. However, along with Instagram, you're going to have to do the same thing with Twitter. Moving on to Socialism. Socialism has to be, like, my favorite one out of all of them, simply because it is so easy to make multiple entries. So if you really want to put in a ton of work one night, you're feeling like, you know what, I want to grind. Socialism is the raffle where you could basically just make, like, 50 entries and just keep on going. Now, I believe that Foot District and Kith are actually doing very, very similar raffles. You can sign up for Foot District now. However, Kith is actually going to be up a little later. I'm not sure if they've started already. If not, maybe they'll just do an in-store raffle, probably in New York. Now, Urban Industry is another one, just like Socialism, where you could just make a ton of entries, so feel free to go ham on Urban. Sneaker Bass, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's the same deal as the first one we mentioned, where all you have to do differently is follow them on Instagram with different accounts. And the answer for the question that they will ask you, it's basically when did the first Air Max 1 come out? The answer for this question, of course, is 1987 for those of you who don't know, but you guys should know that by now if you're a sneakerhead. Another one, just like socialism, is Sefton Fashion. Basically with that one, again, you could just make tons and tons of entries. So for the ones where you might need the Instagram handle or the Twitter handle, maybe you just want to add 1 or 2 entries into those, just because it's time consuming, you know, in comparison to socialism or Sefton Fashion, where you could just make tons of entries. End Clothing is another one. Basically, the only thing that's different about End Clothing, just like SNS, they do ask for payment. You're gonna have to make new accounts every time, and you're gonna have to have a different payment method each time. And then Well Gosh will be having an in-store pickup only. Again, it's the same process with the Google Forms, so if you happen to be in their vicinity, feel free to sign up there. Now for the last one, which is called Tress Bean, I might be pronouncing that wrong, but essentially they only allow you to use your PayPal email. So this does mean, unless you're willing to make multiple different PayPal accounts and connect a credit card, you are only going to be able to make 1 entry into that, but it's fine. Also, keep in mind, for some of these raffles, and I know for this one specifically, they will send you an email confirmation. Make sure if you receive any emails, make sure if it says like verify, you click the link to verify your entry. Otherwise, it'll basically be like all that work went to nothing. Then another one, we have Oki Knee, and basically just follow them on Instagram and Twitter. Same process as the ones we've mentioned previously. And now Naked is actually doing somewhat of a different thing. They're doing what's called a first come first serve raffle, which honestly don't really understand. I'm assuming that you sign up for the raffle, and if you win the raffle, you still don't get the shoe. You only have the opportunity to buy them, and I'm assuming that when they send you the email, you have to be really quick in purchasing them. I might be incorrect, but I'm sure if you enter, they'll send you an email where they briefly explain how it goes. So yeah, that basically concludes how you can cop these shoes, how you can get your hands on them, and of course, all these links for all these raffles, I will be putting on my Twitter. But now let's talk about some resale predictions, because I know a lot of you guys might care about that. Will the shoes with no accessories and accessories have any resale value at all? Absolutely, because these shoes are supposed to be very limited. I mean, there's been some rumors floating around that they were supposed to be pretty available, but considering the fact that it's still a Nike draw and it's not a first come first serve, it makes me think that no, these are going to be pretty limited. Definitely don't sleep on this shoe. Although they might be more available than the Animal Pack Air Maxes, these still are going to have resale, and with that low retail price, it leaves a ton of wiggle room for profit. So I know some of you guys might actually want to know like what my price predictions are. I guess I might have to say, saying conservative, I might say around like $280. That's like the low and like the worst size as possible. And maybe the high being around like $350-ish. Obviously, could be more, could be less, but the whole point is that yes, these will have resale value no matter what. You should be able to profit, but this isn't advice. These are just my predictions. You feel free to take them. Also, if you happen to disagree and you think that they won't have any resale value, leave a comment. I'll try to read your comment. I like hearing what you guys have to say. This is a community where we all try to help each other, put in valuable input. So yeah, that'll conclude it. Essentially, whether you're copying these shoes for personal wear like I am, or if you just want to resell them and make a quick buck for future grails, basically good luck. Have a fantastic day, and if you happen to enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like. If you happen to learn something, feel free to leave a like, and make sure to subscribe to join this awesome community, and turn on post notifications if you haven't already, to make sure you stay updated on all these hyped sneaker releases. I'll see you guys later, and have a great day.
You always tell me where you should be stopping. Using your shoe like a size 12 weapon. Get your foot off my foot.
Get your foot off my foot, yeah!
Now I can't run and I can't walk. You hit me so hard I don't want to talk. Get your foot off my foot.